I'll start off by explaining the area so you can get a good picture of where this occurred. We lived in a small neighborhood. All of the surrounding streets dead end into a half-circle park. Behind the park are some woods and a railroad track. When we were younger, we played in the front part of the woods. We never ventured too far back into the woods. This was our play area for years. We never had an issue or scare. It was a pretty area that was also well lit. Anyhow, one day my brother Jimmy, my best friend Sarah, and my brother's best friend Ian were all building a dam in the middle of the small creek that ran through the park and the woods. The boys decided they were going to head back to Ian's house for some snacks. Sarah and myself stayed behind. As we were moving rocks around, I got a very odd feeling come over me. A strange feeling that we are being watched. I immediately think it's the boys trying to scare us and just continue with what we are doing. Sarah and I load up some big rocks and head back to the creek and put them down at the dam. I get that feeling again, and as I stand up I see something straight in front of me about 30 feet away. I can't clearly make out what it is yet because it is behind a bush, but I do see that it is a pattern of red and blue. I know that was nothing the boys had on, so at this point I am focusing, trying to figure out what it is. As I am scanning up the bush, I start to realize it is a clown. I lie to you not, my heart started pounding immediately. The clown and my eyes lock. He is wearing a blue-red hat with a reverse pattern, red-blue jumpsuit. I grab Sarah's shirt and immediately pull her upright, and she notices the man right away. He is smiling with a full face of makeup, and he also has a huge knife. We both see nothing and start running as fast as our legs can take us. He begins to follow us. We can hear twigs snapping and ground crunching, but we are booking it. We run through the front of the woods, through the side of the park, and up her dead-end street. Ian and Jimmy are 2 houses up from the end and see us running and are screaming what is going on. While running past them, we scream we saw a clown, and they just start laughing. We are still running, screaming for our lives, and we finally make it to the middle of the street where Sarah's dad Danny is now running out the front door because he hears us screaming. We meet Danny right at the beginning of the neighbor's house, and we are trying to explain what we've seen, and he says, "Girls, stop it now. This is ridiculous. What are you talking about?" We both try to catch our breath. By this time, Jimmy and Ian have caught up to us. We are crying and pointing and telling Danny again that we saw a clown with a knife. Jimmy and Ian are laughing, and Danny is asking if they played a prank on us. About this time, an old yellow Pinto type of car comes from the dead end at the park and pulls right up next to the sidewalk of the yard we are in. Sure enough, plain as day, it's the effing clown. No hat this time though, but knife in hand and telling us to come here. Danny starts shoving us all toward the house, and he himself is scared and running now. The car drives off down the street. We get inside the house and Danny calls the police. We had to give statements, and police patrolled the neighborhood and the park for a few weeks. We were never allowed to go in the park again, and a few months after that, the city started to clear out the woods. They cut down many trees and made a walking area that you could see through all the way to the train tracks. My friend and I used to talk about this many times up until their death. No one would believe us had they not seen it as well. It was just so scary. I think they only got to see him because whoever it was had to go down to the dead-end street to leave the neighborhood. Either way, this man was not afraid of us, nor the small group of people that gathered from our screaming. He very bravely stopped right in front of us as Sarah's father tried to comfort us and calm us down while flashing his knife. We are lucky to be alive, I feel. Had it just been one of us left in the woods, which sometimes occurred, I don't think there would have been a group of 4 of us any longer. To this day, we all have a severe fear of clowns. As a child, growing up in the backwoods of Maine, I've heard my fair share of strange things in the night. Typically, it'll be coyotes hunting, or the prowl of another nocturnal creature. As a child, I was never particularly afraid of the dark, but I knew dangers lurked in the absence of light, so at night I played indoors. During the daytime, however, there were never any restrictions. On one summer afternoon, I was riding my bike down the street that branched off my dead-end road. Our only neighbors being a relative and a couple of decent folk just down the way. Otherwise, quiet woods. I would bike down here quite often as there was no town to bike through, and this stretch was fun to ride because I could pedal my heart out without having to slow down in order to veer. On this day, I made my normal round up the road, only to turn around and head back. I had an uneasy feeling on the ride up, which was abnormal. I for some reason felt like I was being watched. Something told me to look towards the woods on my right, and I did so reluctantly. Deep in the woods, amongst the pines, I saw a black, almost liquid thing peer out from behind a tree. That was when my heart dropped. I took off pedaling as fast as my feet would take me, keeping a steady eye on the woods to my right. This thing kept pace effortlessly, darting from tree to tree like a primordial ooze. It was either playing or stalking prey. I wasn't about to stop and find out though. Pedaling so hard I thought my chain would snap. I knew my uncle's house was approaching on the left. I spun out in the dirt, ditched the bike, and ran to his door, frantically knocking. I turned around to see if whatever it was would be making its way towards me. However, I didn't see anything. My uncle opened the door, cigarette in his mouth, asking me what's wrong. I explained to him what I saw. He grabbed the rifle and said, "Probably just a bear," with slight concern in his voice. "I've never seen a bear move like that," I said out of breath. "Yep, they'll do that," he said as he peered through the blinds. To this day I don't know what I saw, but something tells me my uncle sure did. It's been 20 years and I've since lost contact with my uncle, but maybe someday I'll reach out and ask.